That's the city. Right in the heart of Wilmington, though, there's this awesome park right behind me. We're going to talk about shooting some wildlife photography and why the 75-300 is not as crap as some people make it out to be. Okay, it's pretty horrible, but I'm going to make my case why you should definitely add that lens into your arsenal, at least initially. Welcome back to Photos with Yanni. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most misunderstood lenses ever, 75-300. It's a full frame lens and it works on crop sensor cameras as well. I'm shooting with a Canon 90D, my new baby, and we're right here in the middle of the city, like I said, in Wilmington. You can probably hear the traffic, where you find little oases like this, full of wildlife and full of cool stuff you can shoot. So we're going to be taking the 75-300, well, let me try speaking English, the 75-300, and taking some shots with it, telling you what it can do, what it cannot do, and why I honestly think that you should definitely start with a lens like that. First, let's break out some shots first of what I've taken with the 75-300, and as you can see, it's a pretty big variety. First, the technical stuff. The 75-300, it's a variable aperture lens. I think it goes from 4 to 6.5 or maybe 5.5 if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to put it in the description below. It goes from 75 millimeters to 300 millimeters, obviously. On a crop sensor, multiply that by 1.6, you get a pretty decent reach with that particular lens. But there's a couple of issues with it. First and foremost, it's not the fastest lens. I like to use 9-point autofocus, especially when I'm doing wildlife, and it's definitely not the fastest one. I did manage to get a cool picture of a crow, only 3 shots using that lens, so I'm not going to complain. Secondly, the image quality, it's not that good. It's really not that good. It's soft, especially around the edges, and the more you push it on the 300 millimeter range, that's when you're going to realize that it's even softer, even in the middle of it. No, so it's definitely not the sharpest lens out there. Not the fastest, not the sharpest. It does horrible under low light. So why in the heck would you want that lens in your arsenal? Well, I'll tell you why. The 75-300 is one of those great lenses that initially you can take with you into your photographic journey. So what does that mean? You can take the shot, you can take the lens, take some awesome moon shots, some wildlife, even some cool landscape shots, maybe even some amazing portraits. It creates, that compression and that cool bokeh if you have enough distance from your subject to the background. But with all those negatives, why would you want that? Well, first the price. You can get it for under $180. A telephoto lens that works both for full frame and crop sensor, under $180. That's not bad, right? Secondly, and most important, it's the type of lens that will allow you, that will grow with you. So basically, initially, you may not be able, as a beginner photographer, you may not be able to see what's wrong in your images. The moment though you get that lens and you start seeing more and more stuff, that means that you're growing as a photographer. And that is a great tool and a pretty inexpensive tool. It's good in a pinch, but at the same time, it allows you to see, how you're progressing. What's wrong with it? Chromatic aberration. There is a lot of chroma on that lens. There's a lot of ghosting. The colors are mismatched, but you don't see that with an eye that's a beginner. The more you take pictures, the more you journey into photography, and the more you realize what other stuff is there. You see that lens and you're like, all right, I'm growing. Take example of this picture. It looks good until you actually notice the details. And you didn't know that in the 75-300, but you grow and you grow and you grow and you see those little imperfections. So essentially, it's a great lens to start with, but the more you grow and the more experienced you are, you can use it as a litmus test to see that, it's time to get something else. Here's a couple of the better shots that I've taken with the 75-300 and why I honestly think that you can really push it and get some good results with it. One other thing that this lens does not have is optical image stabilization. So you have to shoot with enough high shutter speed to reduce motion blur. Put that into the cons as well. Eventually, this is my case for it. You start with a pretty inexpensive, a pretty solid investment. You grow with it. You don't spend a lot of money, and maybe that's something, wildlife is something that you don't want to do. Maybe you want to venture out there and see, hey, do I really want to drop $1,000 on or more on a 100 to 400 lens? This is a great opportunity to find out if you really want to spend all that money in wildlife. Maybe that's not your forte. Maybe you want to shoot portraits. So that's a very good way, like I said, a litmus test to see what do you want to shoot with. So a great way, it's a great lens to add into your arsenal while you're still learning. You like it, you get rid of it, and you get like a 70-300 or maybe a 100-400. But that's a great way to train your eye and your gear. And it's a great journey. It's a great lens that will allow you to progress your photographic journey. So I'm gonna go ahead right now and take some wildlife shots if there's anything out here, because it's kind of drab today. But I don't know, maybe we'll see a bird, a bear, a jackal. We're too close into the city. Once again, thank you for tuning in. This is Photos with Yanni. Like if you like the video, share the channel so we can grow. Make a comment below. We're also working on some videos for Lightroom. I was working on one last night, but it was a total disaster with video quality, so I have to reshoot it tonight. Like our stuff and help us grow. I would like to give special thanks to Wolf Amory and Photography Beginners Group in Facebook. Photo 1 by 1. It's a free photography course. Just Google it. I'll link it below. All my presets, as usually, they're for free below as well. Thank you to Radio FM, and we'll see you guys soon. See you next time. Bye. Is that a bear?